tests become toxic when they start changing the way we think and feel about education. They become toxic when we start using the wrong tool the wrong way. But when we hold kids' graduation to that, that's toxic. Thank you. Great. What a beautiful morning out here, advocating for kids and our teachers and our strong education system. Thank you for coming. So as it was mentioned, my work as an instructional coach in my middle school is a unique one. The last several weeks, I've watched our computer lab get shut down to prepare for state testing, and the manual was only released last week, late last week. So this is an example of how fast things are changing without thinking about the people who work with kids every day. How fast policy moves without asking teachers or parents about what will make that process successful. I can't agree with all of the goals, and I certainly don't disagree with some of them. I don't back away from accountability. As a classroom teacher with at-risk kids and in the classroom and with 2 kids of my own, I want to know that teachers are doing the best they can do. I want to know that they have access to the best skills and resources. I don't mind being held accountable for that. But that means I need to have the resources to actually make that happen, and that has not been the case. I don't back away from accountability when it comes to this idea of making sure that our teachers are working together. I just feel like if we had time to do that in the past, it would have already happened. Our teachers now have more kids of their own on free and reduced lunch, and that number is increasing. We lose half of our teachers in this state in the first 5 years of their career because they can't make ends meet, or because the job isn't what they expected. Maybe in a few cases that's okay, if we want the best and the brightest teachers in the classrooms with our kids. But by and large, you can't sustain a workforce of the best and brightest teachers if you aren't paying them and if you aren't giving them the resources they need to do right by their students. I even believe there's a time and place for testing. Having written tests for my own students in the past and working with teachers to write the best assessments to make sure kids are getting to where we want them to go, that's reasonable. But what isn't reasonable is when those tests become toxic. And those tests become toxic when they start changing the way we think and feel about education. When teachers become the enemies. They become toxic when we start using the wrong tool the wrong way. The state system has a test in place to measure the system. But when we hold kids' graduation to that, even if they've shown themselves competent in other ways and passed their classes, that's toxic. When we decide that we're going to hold teachers' evaluations already high stakes enough to a test score that they don't even have adequate influence over, that makes it toxic. When we decide that we're going to redefine what a successful school is or a failing school is based on test scores, that's toxic, Arnie Duncan. And most importantly, when it poisons the way a child views themselves as a learner, that's when testing becomes toxic. We can't keep using the wrong tool to measure our kids and our teachers. We have to back away from the high-stakes testing that is used to measure a system, and when the numbers don't look good, we have to remember it's the system that's failing, not the kids and the teachers and neighborhoods and the parents. It's the system you were designing to test. Right. How many out there know smart, capable, productive, thoughtful, innovative people? Yeah. Who may have done poorly on a test? No. Shocker, everybody. Why are we using the wrong tool to measure success? We don't do that about things we care about. Who else do we care about? We care about our Seahawks, right? Sure, we'll try that one on for size. But if we were to use that last measure, that last performance task assessment, that last assessment, our dear Russell Wilson would not be represented in that number the way we know he ought to be. We can't measure Russell Wilson in that one number. He's got a whole season, 2 seasons behind him. That is a much better picture of his performance, his dedication, and being a student of the game. When you measure 1 point in time, you fail the student, and you fail the community, and guess what? You fail your tax dollars because you're going to pay a whole lot more down the road. It's about time we start getting this right. It's about time we start backing off the toxic nature of testing, and it's about time we start talking to parents and teachers more before we pass fast-paced policy. Last month, there was an article in the Charlotte Observer written by a high school teacher. She was reviewing some recent research on whether or not our schools are actually failing in America. She quoted from the conclusion that nobody understands the challenges and the shortcomings of American schools better than those people who have dedicated their lives to them. Yet educators are rarely asked for their expertise. And that snub is bipartisan. And she mentions a Democratic governor who railed against public teachers in his speeches, and several Republican committees for education that are entirely without educators on them. Wow. We have got to become a part of the system. We have got to continue telling our stories about our special ed students who are asked to take a WAAMS test that looks different every year, and then we're holding accountabilities to that for crying out loud, and it's not even a consistent assessment. Right. We can't do that. We can't shut down computer labs and access to technology and research skills for months at a time for a state test that is entirely different from last year, and we don't even know if it's going to work because there may not be Wi-Fi connection for all the Chromebooks across the state. We can't keep doing that. We have to become a part of the system. I ask you, when session is out, ask your legislator to come visit you. Walk them around. Let them hear your story. Let them meet the kids. Because when I was in that building, it made a huge difference to me when I could hear stories and really get a sense of something I didn't know about. They don't know about education. They need you to help them. I'm so excited that you're out here to get a start on that. There are bills coming through session that will directly affect the things you care about. The things I see posted on your posters today, there are bills there. Tell your stories. Get an appointment. And let people know when they don't meet with you. Write home about that. Post it, tweet it, all of those things. We have got to hold our policymakers accountable for smarter education policy. We owe it to our kids, and we owe it to their kids. Thank you.